Welcome one and all to my latest Skyrim build, the Pariah. This setup will have you dominating in every fight, and I was genuinely surprised at just how well it worked out. As with all of my best builds, this was fully created on legendary difficulty, and all the footage you are seeing is on the same difficulty. If you want to skip ahead to any section, then there will be timestamps in the description as always. The Pariah grew up as part of a small nomadic tribe in Hammerfell. They were outcasts, although she never found out why, instead simply being told that they couldn't go into any of the towns or settlements. Life on the road provided them with all they needed though. Most of their group were hunters, able to shoot down enough animals to keep them well fed, and her mother was a talented healer, able to cure diseases with her potions and close wounds with her magic. The Pariah learnt to hunt from her tribe and learnt healing magic from her mother, and even a little alchemy too. She was happy with her life, she had what she needed, and was part of a loving group of friends and family, who she knew she could trust and rely on. Happiness is fleeting though, and tragedy is almost always a part of life. Her tragedy came at the hand of a group of bandits. Normally bandits would leave a small tribe alone, clearly able to see that they were well armed and didn't have any valuables worth stealing. This group was different though. There was a hunger in their smiles when they approached, and their eyes had a blood-red glow. In the late evening light, the figures seemed far more intimidating than most, but the group wasn't interested in starting a fight if one could be avoided. The Pariah's father stepped forwards, and began explaining to the others that they didn't have anything worth fighting for. But before he could finish speaking his piece, the first of the bandits charged at him, grabbing his arms and holding them in place as the bandit sunk his teeth into the Red Guard's neck. The Pariah was still young, and had never seen another person die before. The dreadful sight froze her in place, and events seemed to unfold before her in slow motion. She saw the rest of the tribe raise their weapons to fight off the blood-sucking bandits. Her mother had charged at the man who had killed her father, and knocked him to the ground, stabbing repeatedly at his chest with a sharp knife. The bandit in turn punched straight through her chest with his bare hand, seemingly possessing superhuman strength. She watched the bandits cut down her tribe one by one, not able to do anything to stop them. Although the Red Guards were able to fight back, two of the enemy faction were left standing when the bloodshed ended. The two then proceeded to start feeding off of the fallen corpses, sinking their teeth into the necks of her fallen friends and drinking deeply from their blood. The pair seemed unaware of her presence, and she felt that she could move once more. On the ground near her was a bow and a handful of arrows. She picked them up and knocked the first arrow, raising the bow and pulling the string back to her cheek. She took aim and let the arrow fly at the back of one of the attackers. It pierced through his neck, causing his body to convulse before slumping to the ground. This appeared to have alerted the other man to her presence, and he stopped feeding and spun around to face her. She rapidly nocked a fresh arrow and pulled back the string as the creature sprinted straight at her, blood dripping from the lower half of his face. She remained calm as he closed the distance, knowing she would need the perfect shot to stay alive. Her assailant was less than a foot away when she released her fingers from the string of the bow, the arrow piercing the man's eye and passing all the way through his skull, and dropping his freshly dead body in front of her. When the sun rose the following morning, she had buried her family and friends, and left the graves behind her. Keep moving forwards is what she told herself, knowing that she had to focus on her own survival, and couldn't allow herself to grieve. She kept moving forwards for several more years, eventually leaving Hammerfell and finding herself on the border of Skyrim. The main skills for this build are Archery, Enchanting, and Light Armour. The main focus with Archery is to help you deal the most damage. However, I also went up both sides of the skill tree for some handy little perks, like Power Shot and Hunter's Discipline. These will help you stagger foes more often and get back more of your bolts respectively. In the Enchanting skill tree, I went with all ranks of Enchanter, and then worked my way up to Extra Effect, so I could double the number of enchantments I had on all of my gear. Light Armour was a bit of a strange one for this build. The armour rating isn't anything amazing, however a couple of perks in this tree proved to be rather helpful. Unhindered and Windwalker will both help with the mobility of the build, making it so that you aren't weighed down by your armour and giving you a base 50% extra stamina regen. The additional skills of the build are Restoration, Sneak, and Smithing. The key perk you want to get in the Restoration tree is Respite. This allows healing spells to also restore stamina, and is a key aspect to this build. It will help you to sprint for as long as you like, and be able to use Eagle Eye far more extensively than you normally would. In the Sneak tree, the most important perk would be Deadly Aim, as it grants you a 3x modifier to your sneak attacks. If you are struggling with stealth though, you may also want to go up the left hand side of a tree to help with specific stealth situations. Finally, we come to Smithing. The perks I took in this tree were Steel Smithing and Dwarven Smithing. Having these two perks will allow you to craft all your own crossbow bolts for yourself, and the Dwarven perk will help you to improve your crossbow to the greatest extent. Ideally, when improving your crossbow, you also will be wearing a smithing suit and take a potion to get the best possible increase to the weapon's damage output. This build requires a good mix of health, stamina and magicka, so make sure you're investing into all three. Which you need most of all will largely depend on how you're finding things. If you're running low on health, invest more in health. If you're running low on stamina, invest more on stamina. And the same with magicka. It all depends on how you find it whilst playing. As I'm writing this script, I've noticed that I've never actually got a Standing Stone Blessing with this build. Despite this, plenty of them still help out a ton, but the two that would stand out most to me are the Shadow and Serpent Stones. The Shadow Stone helps complement your stealth a great deal, whilst the Serpent adds some more combat prowess. Early on, Adrenaline Rush will be incredibly helpful for restoring your stamina. Once you've got the Respite perk though, it becomes far less relevant. Instead, you can focus on using whatever shouts you come across to complement the character. If you watch my Edgelord build, then you'll know that Whirlwind Sprint works incredibly well with the fast-paced build, and this remains the case with the Pariah too. The weapon for this build is an enhanced Dwarven Crossbow. This weapon is great, possibly my favourite in the entire game. Not only is it strong, easy to use and accurate, but it also has a 50% stagger chance, and can be equipped with exploding bolts for increased lethality. The enchantments I decided to throw on my crossbow were Fiery Soul Trap and Paralyze, both at the weakest rank. This should let you use the weapon hundreds of times before needing to recharge, and doesn't lower the power of the weapon all that much. The flame damage from Fiery Soul Trap is the same regardless of the charge level, and Paralyze is most useful for knocking enemies to the ground, as the animation of them getting back up will buy you more than enough time to deal with them, or create some distance between the two of you. The armour for this character is a full set of a Morag Tong armour, which you can get by helping out in Raven Rock, and killing the Morag Tong assassins who show up in the quest Served Cold. You can loot the eponymous armour from them once they're dead to have for yourself. This set isn't the strongest, and I've honestly gone for it purely based off the look. This doesn't matter too much though, as you don't want to be getting hit anyway. As for enchantments to place on the set, the most important one will of course be Fortify Marksman, in order to make your attacks stronger. Additionally, you may want to go with Fortify Sneak and Restoration, to boost your support skills a fair bit. Don't forget to also get yourself a ring and necklace, to increase the number of enchantment slots you have available to you. There are two factions you'll need to help out, the Dawnguard and the people of Raven Rock. These will be necessary in order to get your hands on the appropriate equipment for the character. Doing the side quests for the Dawnguard will also give you the ability to craft bolts for your crossbow, meaning you don't have to rely so much on heading back to the fort and buying them over and over. I didn't use any followers with this build. Not only would they disrupt stealth, but they also just wouldn't be able to keep up. This character is fast, and would just leave behind anyone trailing her in an instant. After her previous loss, she hasn't been too eager to form strong bonds with anyone else too, so a lack of followers works on a role-playing standpoint as well. This character is a very fast-paced stealth archer. You ideally want to start off every combat with a few stealth attacks with your crossbow, but if you get detected, you should then focus on creating distance with your opponents. You can sprint away from them and then use healing spells to restore your stamina, thanks to the Respite perk, ensuring you can always keep moving at speed. Run rings around your foe whilst peppering them with bolts to ensure victory in every situation. You can see in the video footage just how well this build works, not being confined solely to slow stealth-based gameplay, but also being an exceptional combat archer. As for role-playing choices, you have a fair bit of freedom here. Obviously you want to take down any vampires you see, and probably won't be all that fond of bandits either, but I did leave the morality of a character open, specifically so you have more choices when you play. You could play as a vengeful and cruel woman who relishes in bringing death to her foes, or as a calm and collected hunter who only kills when she must, and tries to lead a good life. The choices are entirely up to you. Thank you for watching this latest build. If you did enjoy it, then hit the like button, and if you want more in the future, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Additionally, if you want to support the channel financially, I now have a Patreon page. A huge thank you to Mitchell McVeigh, Get Good Guy, and Philip Hetzer for supporting me on Patreon. It means just tons, and also apologies if I mispronounced any of the names there. There will be a link to my Patreon in the description if anyone else is feeling generous. If you want an easier way to help out the channel though, then why not just share this video with a few of your friends, or even just watch some more of my great quality content.